After the freeze comes the thaw. And already there are signs of high water. And before the week is over, the flooding may be on local rivers instead of local roads. We expect 3 to 6 inches of rain over the next few days. That, along with snowmelt, may be too much for some streams.
The big thaw is making a big splash. A stream that empties into Rock Creek swamps West Union Road near 185th. Motorists simply muscle their way through the water, spilling over the road because of heavy rain and clogged drainage pipes. Even veteran road crews are impressed with the icy thaw.
Many people in the Northwest started the week with ice and snow. On Monday, we began to thaw out, and that's when the real trouble began. First, snow avalanches fell on major highways, including this one on I-90. This slide cut off the main road between eastern and western Washington for days. Then the rain began, and snow wasn't the only thing falling into buildings and onto roadways. Tons of mud, rocks, and trees spilled over as saturated hills gave way. Creeks turned into rivers, and rivers turned into seas as the snow melted and the rain fell.
It has stopped raining. It's just drizzling right now, but don't think that it's really supposed to stop until the weekend. The flooding is massive. The damage is going to be massive, and that number will probably climb. In Washington, we know that there are about 4 counties under a state of emergency, and Idaho is having problems now. I'll tell you, if you haven't heard already, Issaquah Creek is in phase 4 alert, which is the highest phase in the flood system, and flooding in the Maple Valley area. And it seems that, what else do we know? Swelling in northern Idaho in the streams there, and it's making the water go over their banks, and there's a continuing threat of ice jams on the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. There are about 150 people of the town's 300 residents.
Here is what some of the pictures you're going to be seeing. First thing you're going to see from this tremendous slide took over a half-mile long, actually 3 slides. This is going to take at least 3 days, maybe 4, to clean up, according to the Oregon State Police. Police officer who's been on the force for 20 averted that.
In Portland at this point, we do want to pass on as well that Hayden Island.
The mountain moves again and comes right back down on top of us, so it's not only a thankless job, but it's pretty dangerous.
Also, Sandy impact.
And we're not letting people just stay isolated by any means. And we're actually on 35.
What we've always called the seawall in Portland, the river wall, in truth, and
is a new definition. Watched dikes in several locations surrounding Tillamook breach today. The dairy industry over here is going to be incredibly hard hit. Tillamook River dikes, being a Northwesterner, is being fined here today.
To the
water
pickup truck.
Downtown core, where we shot yesterday, standing in 2 or 3 feet of water, now upwards of 6 and 8 feet of water. You still see an occasional rooftop, but the rooftops are now big rigs as opposed to small. Have told me they
terrible. Couldn't take 26, couldn't take 6, couldn't take 22. Just kept.
And Pat Doris was down there earlier today and checked out the situation.
This by themselves.
All right, Pat McAbry, thanks.
And if you want to get to Central Oregon, again, you can go to...
Water level right now is at about 20.
People going door to door telling people to get a van. There are U-Haul vans and Ryder trucks.
Get it cleaned up, and then they're going to need to...
The hillside located just west of the home gave way, ripping the home from its foundation. Now, fortunately...
Now, there is a tremendous amount of debris and water. But the wall of sand...
The waters have created a river between 2 of the buildings. Residents have been evacuated as a precaution, and fire crews are on the scene. You can see the slide came all the way from the top of the hill. It came down right there as you're looking. So even the people living above the condos could be in danger of losing parts of their backyards.
Capitol Lake was backing up. Water runoff was filling it up and getting wet are a city park and part of downtown. Flooding, like in the years 1987 and 1951.
No. Others are waiting to see what will happen.
The advice to people, if anybody's outside...
This was debris, Paul. It says, place...
From what I understand from some of the other people living out here, the water is continually climbing. Of course, a lot of people have had to move all...
log...
Downstream.
Along the promenade, city crews erected barriers, a gesture designed.
And people come to these restaurants for the park, a very large business.
Being done to try to prevent that from happening.
I've been here for a few hours.
Yeah, and you guys are just volunteers, right?
Right.
Where are you from?
Portland. Yeah, regular old carpenter. In this very spot when it was bare painted earlier. Now what that means is instead of just plywood and
Portland.
Northwest first continue to rise on the Snoqualmie River. The Snoqualmie
valleys, trees and mud slid off mountains, keeping homeowners frustrated and separated from their homes and families. Rural areas are not the only places being hit. In Springfield, Lane County Sheriff on waters continued to rise, wiping out everything.
You can see some of the mills here along the edge of the water. Just talked to a gentleman who worked up and down the edge of the river here in Oregon City. We were just down at the Valumar Hotel where they've
able to see it while we're watching it?
Yes. I'm in Federal Way right now.
Okay, so you're up in Washington.
Businesses will be in much the same situation where carpets may be.
As the worst flooding in decades continues, News Center 6 is there for everything you need to know about closures, water damage, and yet more flooding on the way. Trust News.
Clog barge. They did one earlier. They're corralling these. We're told by the city that they're going to leave the barricades up all weekend, and then it's going to be sometime next.
Intersections underneath the water, and we're not water. We're talking feet of water. Just saw this story from Issaquah, Washington. A man was killed in this culvert that was developed last night to see in that area.
Counties that are now declared disaster area, and that's the way it is throughout the region. We'll remind you, make contact, if any of you make contact with the water, make sure you watch.
The surrounding areas are having problems over the last couple of days. Tim Steele now joins us on the
landslides that occurred last night up there, and many of them associated with homes. And people should soil because it may fail.
In an inner tube paddling around, very frankly, I wouldn't be doing it.
Traffic, they said if you have to come down here to...
Oddly enough, not all the power is out. Not all the electrical service is cut here in drenched Oregon City.
The couple so concerned about
living east of the dike.
The Wilson, the Trask, and all the other rivers from the bay, good luck. It is just basin. This is a result in many areas, water fought to this pasture land. The dairymen are still working frantically around the clock as they have been since we get around Tillamook County was by boat. But as you can see here, that's changing. Now you can get by with a fairly high dairy cows. As you can see, more hopping out of the Coast Range Mountains. Here's a surf line south on Highway 101.
I was a little earlier about the rancher here. The
Estonians can begin to...
Driver was killed near Kent, Washington, when his car fell into a sinkhole that's 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep. Another car also drove into the same sinkhole, but that driver was rescued by a passerby. The situation's a little better now in Oregon. The Willamette River is expected to crest within inches of flood stage in downtown Portland. But the situation will not be as bad. Sandbag downtown businesses and shore up the seawall.
Most of Vernonia, in the country, and some of them commute into Portland from an hour away. Well, those people have built new homes, and some of those new homes are flooded out and now coated with an extra inch of mud. And again, the river there was in Halem River, swollen over its banks, and nearby Rock Creek.
This is a 3-lane highway at this point. Something went wrong here during the night, and this entire highway just collapsed down this ravine, taking with it trees, debris, all kinds of stuff just slid.
Notice some ski racks up top and see a lot of people getting around by boat in downtown Tawas.
You know, we'll just continue to let this roll, Steve.
Yeah, let's do that. While we're doing this, let's get
out here. The house that we were sandbagging at one point on.
Right now, taken by water. It's going to take weeks to dry out that area.
Where people park their cars and go into businesses and still inside, the kids' toys. I mean, they were taken off guard here. It's hard because people are swift.
Well, so many of these areas, Paula, as you know, are familiar to so many people. They just have to see what's going on.
Drive home through knee-deep water for Tim and Candy Spencer.
We're kind of happy with what we're seeing, but
another house is in the most precarious position of all.
Minutes after they pulled that woman to safety, more debris comes crashing into the area.
Oh, the place is just out of sight.
But there is...
How long?
For about an hour last night because of that mudslide at the...
40 to 60 trains a day that use these railways here.
It was expected, according to eyewitnesses, that there would be someone, and begs the question of
A police patrol boat. They're not sure what's going to happen with that. Now, the bad news that I want to tell you involves a power company crew here from PGE with something, but in fact it has flooded about a 2-block area of these apartments here. Then urgent so much
tracks up there. If you're trying to get to Seattle, it is a mess. It is going to take you hours and hours to get there.
This is the State Street over Lake Oswego that you see right there, and those are Oregon City pictures now that we're going to, Shannon, and that's another remarkable.
blowing. The power pole again is not standing on any ground.
River. People continue for the waterlogged Northwest.
Down Interstate 5. Traffic was rerouted into the southbound lanes, Portland to Astoria. The landslide fell in the shadow of the Trojan nuclear power. Keep Interstate 84 in the Columbia Gorge shut down. Unbelievable. Now half buried in the gorge just up from the highway.
And that's why the Steel Bridge is still closed, as was the Burns.
This is the area between Carnation and Duval in West. Parts are completely impacted. Now it's drawing a lot of spectators. Emergency workers there say it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday before the town can start thinking about cleaning up. Water damaged perishables.
Bringing the townspeople together in its wake.
Oh, I've seen beavers walking down the street in this town.
Ready to all lanes of the highway sit under mud, and transportation officials aren't sure how long it'll be before that stretch of I-84 reopens. And drivers in Washington are dealing with this miles north of the Oregon-Washington.
In Kaiser, sheriff's dive teams. Spectators lined the bridge looking at the damage caused by this lumber as it came crashing up on shore. For the first time, you can see a hint of the falls as the floodwaters on the Willamette drop another 3 feet. But Oregon City's downtown core is still awash in the color brown. Businesses here and by Clackamas Park, time to restore order out here. Kelly Love for North.
Whether to forge ahead and drive through the high water or turn around and try a different way.
Floodwaters are causing.
The floodwater came from up the street where driving was tough. A car left high and dry from.
The power of the gushing Molalla takes down tall, healthy trees,
Sure is.
washing them far downstream.
The way we describe the Molalla is it comes up fast and it goes down fast.
Joan Nasis.
Clackamas River running near its highest level in 10 years, spewing water over the spillway. Tonight you're wet. Yesterday you were sore. You took your little fall there.
What do you prefer? Homeowners are taking a beating this winter. First it was wind, whipping trees on top homes. Then a deep...
Everything in the way. And this may be only the beginning, because we could get another half a foot of rain in the next few...
Waterfalls. The highway has been closed for most of the day. The roads
are washed out.
A bizarre column of water gushes from underneath Highway 30 near the Salvi Island Bridge. Torrential rains and melting ice sent water cascading across the highway, washing away the roadside and threatening a nearby rail line. Pushed water down here 6 feet. Debris on the highway and nearby ramps kept the St. John's Bridge closed for most of the day. And as the rain continued, so did the battle for frustrated workers trying to tame Oregon's newest geyser.
Now take a look at this. You can tell.
You see it's been holding a little bit, but this gets, look at there, it's just now starting to come up over it. That's how the waters have been.
On the edge, leaving residents with no place. Tonight, the fate of 12 other homes hangs in the balance.